Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivanme.
And me, I'm Diana McCullum.
Over there, that's old Diana McCullum.
Hey, from over here.
She never bothers anybody.
No, well, I mean, unless you don't like this podcast, but I don't know why you'd be listening.
Why? Get off her property.
You're in my yard.
Yeah, but old Diana McCullum over there don't bother nobody who don't bother her.
Oh, I am not a troublemaker.
You're not a troublemaker, but you don't suffer fools gladly, I tell you that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that description of me. I've suffered a fool or two, but not gladly.
We've all forcefully been suffered by a fool, have suffered through fool.
I've ground my teeth.
But here we are. And this week on the podcast, this is Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about bad times at the El Royale.
We are talking about bad times at the El Royale. What are we doing this for?
We're doing this because we wanted to grab something from the Dakota Johnson catalog.
You know, it's such a thick.
You go up to the
book.
jukebox and you're looking through you're flipping through, you're looking at the Dakota Johnsons. But we're doing that because we're talking about Madam Web next week. But also, this is just like a trove of other superhero talent as well.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of like fun stuff to mine in here. It's kind of movie. It's like you want to cover it just for all like the connections, like Drew Goddard, who's like Cabin in the Woods, Daredevil, Angel Buffy.
Yeah.
Is the writer director. Chris Hemsworth's here.
Yeah, we got Chris Hemsworth's Thor here. Jeff Bridges, Obadiah Stane. Come on.
I actually genuinely forgot that.
Oh, you forgot?
You
forgot? Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Now,
I love his line read of that.
I absolutely love him as Obadiah Stane, but the character he plays in this movie is called Flynn, so the whole movie I was thinking of Tron.
I understand that as well.
I wasn't thinking about Iron Man.
But we came here for the Dakota Johnson-ness of it all.
That's one done.
Because next week we are going to be talking about Madam Web.
And she is the titular.
The titular Madam Web.
We're going to find out if she suffer fools. If she crosses the line. If she
did her
bothers
mother
anyone.
study spiders in the jungle? You know,
I think we can say she did.
Yeah.
But also, I can't wait to see if they kept that line or cut it. It's going to be really exciting.
I am so sickly excited to talk about that next week. This is just a wild ride.
I don't think I've been this excited for a movie since like Venom. There is something actually quite special about the Sonyverse movies.
I also love every interview or piece of information I have been reading about Madam Web. We haven't seen it yet.
We haven't seen it
yet. But this is like, I'm not normally like a read the gossip type of a person. I normally don't care. Like, I need to know if celebrities are problematic. And that's it.
Yes.
That's all I really need to know. I don't really care that much. But this is just one where every interview, every bit of drama, I like an interview where like the director says like all the best stuff in the movie was spoken by Adam Scott and none of it was in the script. So he just made his own thing and it's the best parts of the movie. I'm like, you should not be saying that about your own movie. Dakota Johnson in an interview being like, it's the first time I'd ever really done big budget green screen. Most of the time I did not understand what was happening and none of it made sense to me. It's like, you should not be saying that on the press circuit for your own movie. I am sickly fascinated with every little thing that comes out of the build up to this movie.
Dakota Johnson firing her management team after getting this movie is like just a
after
thing.
The trailer release for this movie.
After the trailer release. Like, this is a kind of move you find out after you've officially bombed. She pre-officially bombed, fired her management team.
Yeah.
That's something special.
There's so much.
This just doesn't happen.
There's so much there.
But also, I feel like I like Dakota Johnson as a person from the few interviews I've seen with her. But also her, so we had to go through the catalog.
We had to go through the catalog.
The Dakota Johnson catalog.
There's so much here.
Which I think our options were this or 50 Shades of Grey were the choices for another Dakota Johnson flick.
Yeah.
And we went with Bad Times at the El Royale.
They don't know if Madam Web takes place in the villainverse.
Yes, they don't know if it's connected to Venom.
The people
or
making the
Morbius.
film have said, they're like, we checked and Sony couldn't give us a clear answer whether or not this exists. Not in the Spider-Man universe, in the Morbius universe. Sony was like, we don't want to give you Morb just yet.
We can't give you that sweet Morb heat. It might be Morbin time.
I'm so excited.
We don't know.
I'm so excited for next week.
My favorite thing about Madam Web, just my last favorite thing about Madam Web, was the reveal of her costume was on a bottle of ocean spray. I don't know if you saw this.
No notes. I did not see this.
It was a promotional tie-in with Ocean Spray, and it revealed her costume before the poster with her costume ever came out. And then like a week later, the poster came out. It's like, yeah, that was the costume. That was legit.
Looking at it right now. No notes.
No notes.
I love it.
Honestly, kind of a brilliant marketing campaign.
Oh
This
my
might
God.
be the greatest movie ever. I also love that you brought up Adam Scott having like the most lines and the funniest part because he's barely in the trailer and as far as I know have done no press.
Yeah.
Where's he been?
He hasn't. He feels like he will be to this what Matt Smith was to Morb.
Oh yeah, Matt Smith didn't do any
How
press
Matt
for
Smith
Morb,
was just
huh?
like, I was in Morb, but nobody worry about it. Don't bring it up. I'll talk to y'all later. I'm Doctor Who. Adam Scott, I feel like, is going to do a full-on...
I mean, Matt Smith at least had the excuse of like, I gotta go fly a dragon. I'm
Yeah,
in House
oh,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
Dragon.
He's-
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't do the more press.
I'm busy
gotta
with
go.
dragons.
I gotta go to an HBO Prestige show. I'm so sorry.
They're real, apparently. They're dragons.
I don't have time.
So-
and Adam Scott's like, I'm in the Succession. Not the Succession. What's the one where their brains become their work?
Severance.
Severance.
I often do the same thing. It's something about I hit prestige drama, letter S, and my brain grabs Succession first.
So yeah, he's severanced, so he can't remember even being in Madam Web.
But
he severanced himself.
he severanced himself.
to be in the movie.
Clean out of that bad boy. I love this. I love this so much. But today, what we were talking about bad times at the El Royale. And before we get into today's episode, we want to take a moment to thank our friends over at Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is going to be a great way for you to save money this year. Why don't you make this the year where you save money on the easy things instead of flushing money down the toilet? You know how that's a thing that some of us do foolishly?
We do foolishly do it, usually because no one's offering you quality stuff for a cheaper price. But then there's Mint Mobile.
Mint Mobile comes along, helps you save money, stops you from flushing it down the toilet with the exception of that novelty toilet paper you bought that has money print on it. But that's just a goof for you.
That's just fun for you, but Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for $15 a month, and all plans come with unlimited talk and text and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network, so quality, not too expensive,
Yeah.
all those great, wonderful things.
Gives you all of the things that you need on their plans. And also when you go to their website and you're like looking through, you're like, what are the plans like? It's just like, here's the things you need. Because like so many other mobile phone providers will be like, okay, and now we're on the webpage where we talk to you about phone calls. Have you heard about those? And now if you look under subsection 8G population 49 and then download this PDF, you'll find the thing about data. And it's like, give me the thing that phones give. Give me the things that phone give.
Give me the things, and no secrets, please?
No secrets. It's
No
2024. We don't want secrets, and we all know the things that phones should have. And Mint Mobile just comes in and is like, yeah, talk, text, and high-speed data. Yeah, we got you.
And just a wildly easy to use website to like figure out which plan you want. You can get a 3, 6, or 12-month plan, and it's just like so straightforward. You're like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You can do one for yourself. You can do a family plan, which means 2 or more, because you can have a 2-person family. Mint Mobile ain't going to judge your lifestyle. There's no number minute. Whatever family you want. Get your dog a cell phone. They won't mind one bit. And you can use your own phone with any plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts, making the switch easy. And when you switch over, you get your first 3 months of premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. So to get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/TFS. That's mintmobile.com/TFS. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/TFS. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And now let's get into today's episode. Let's talk about bad times at the El Royale. All right, we have watched Bad Times at the El Royale. I had seen this once before. Diana, it was your first viewing.
First viewing.
You're coming in fresh. Let's start with the usual question. Diana, did you like it?
I would say this movie's poorly named because I had a great time at the El Royale.
Oh!
Pew, 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 pew. Enjoy my only pre-prepared joke today, everybody.
Dad joke.
No, not my dad. No, I really, really liked this movie. I think it's like pretty close to a love. I had a great time at the El Royale. It's a joke and it's sincere. It's both. I think this movie's wildly fun. I think it's really clever. I think it's not too up its ass about how clever it is, which is like really nice and refreshing. It's just like, no, I worked really hard on this, but I'm not sure if it's good. It has this really like refreshing quality to it. All the characters are really likable, wildly interesting backstories. They're intersecting in super fun ways. The setting is wonderful. I like that it's in the past. I love this hotel with the state border down the middle. I think that is so fucking cool. I just really had a fun time. I liked everyone. Thought it all came together well. I didn't know what was going to happen next. It kept surprising me. It's like Psycho meets like, what is it? What are these things all come to? It's like Psycho and a better version of the movie Identity meets like Pulp Fiction. It's like or Four Rooms maybe. Like it's so many cool movies all mixed together. I had a wonderful time at the El Royale. Way better than any of the guests. So much better time than any of the guests.
The guests did have a truly bad time.
0 stars on Yelp for the El Royale.
Bad reviews for the El Royale.
The hotel reviews versus the movie reviews are going to be wildly different. But I really, really liked this movie. Andrew, did you like it, Mr. I've seen it twice?
I think it's great. I think this movie is honestly fantastic. It is phenomenal. More people should have been talking about this. I feel like it crept under people's radar, and I don't really know why. Like this should have been a hit. I think this movie is awesome in so many regards. It's fantastic performances. I love its pacing. I couldn't agree more with your description of it's not up its own ass. It is cool, but it is not pretentious about that. It is ambitious, but it doesn't it doesn't try to shine too much of a light on itself for being that. It's just the right level of everything. It just drips cool top to bottom. It looks amazing. Fun performances, great writing, a great sequencing. Yeah, the styling, the stylizing of like telling a story based on the room and having the title cards and flipping around. It's very Four Rooms. It's very Tarantino, Rodriguez type of a vibe. But yeah, the vibes are right. It's just a really cool movie.
Yeah, it's the vibes are great. Yeah, whereas like the Tarantino version of this movie, every scene would be like, look how clever this is. Can you believe how clever this is? This movie is very much like, no, this is like we're pretending it's a real thing that's happening and no one in the scene thinks it's clever and cool, except maybe Chris Hemsworth at the end. But not in a bad way. In a way that I'm just like, that's who that guy is.
And everything just looks great. Like
it's a slick looking movie.
Yeah, it is a movie with just a practical set with incredible set design and props and looks, and it's just this it is just this style lookbook that is just really fun to look at. It is this old 60s Vegas type of an energy of this motel, and it makes me nostalgic for a time that I wasn't alive for or haven't experienced.
We haven't experienced. I will say the hotel we stayed at in Vegas wasn't super renovated, so I think we may have had a taste of a decade later than this.
When you go off the strip, you get a taste.
You get a taste.
But you don't see it in its heyday. And even then, this movie is meant to be like, this is outside of its heyday. But everything still looks like it did in its heyday. It's just not popping in terms of who is going there. But yeah, it's a really fun movie.
It's a really fun movie. Now, let me ask you something, because you're better at the effects-driven part than me, and I haven't seen anything in the trivia about this, just because you're like, the stylized part is cool and it's practical. Do you think they built like 1 or 2 hotel rooms and the one shot down the hallway was a trick? Or do you think they built 5 hotel rooms with mirrors in them? Because the one shot when John Hamm's looking into each room?
Oh, I think they for sure built 5.
You think all 5? Yeah.
Yeah.
I really thought they did too, but I'm like, man, building a long row of 5 hotel rooms, I don't know what this budget was.
I think that's nothing.
Yeah, I guess
that's
in
not on a
grand
soundstage, that's nothing.
I would just think like that's the length of like a football field at that point. 5 rooms.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Lengthwise is the issue to me.
I see what you're saying. That I would actually say is like not that different from the length of an average sitcom soundstage.
Oh, okay.
So it is not obscenely long. I think the detail is where the budget and the work come in. But I see where your head's at. That like it does feel like it goes on for a long while, and it's definitely not a small room. But like that would be, I think, like a pretty normal soundstage.
Okay, that's totally cool. Because yeah, when that oneer happened, I was like, holy shit. Jeff Bridges is tearing up floors. Darlene singing the entire time. Dakota Johnson's kidnapping her sister. Like, this is a long sequence to keep going back and forth of where the director's like, and Dakota go. And sing and floors but like wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
Such a cool oneer.
And another one where like it's not up its own ass. To be like it's a long one shot, but it's not necessarily that impressive that it's a one shot. It's not sweeping camera movements through like a military fight scene or anything. It is John Hamm walking up and down a hallway 3 times. That's all it is.
That's all it is at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it's a man walking up and down a hallway, but we have all of these pieces going around it, and it is just the tone and energy of it, and sitting in that moment is really what sells it and why it's relevant as a long one take, and it's not up its own ass. It's like there's a reason for this, and it's because of the tone and the energy and the feeling of this moment and letting it linger. And it's not about, can you believe we left the camera running this long? It's story motivated, and it feels like that every step of the way.
Yeah, I do love that everything in this is story motivated. It's no like scenes you don't need for like such a complicated story. Like, yeah, because like John Hamm's walking down that hallway and you're getting peeks inside each room. And everything's wildly relevant and wildly interesting. It's not like there's any like throwaway guests who are just like shitty who you're not supposed to care about. It's like, no, everyone's doing something cool. You find out, the Darlene had all this like audio foam because she's a singer. It wasn't actually bed sheets. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then like, I don't know how Dakota Johnson got her sister or what's happening there.
Yeah.
What's going on. But yeah, you're just like, you're so interested as he walks by.
I fully agree.
It's almost like window shopping and you're like, which one are we going to stop at? And like, what are we going to buy?
And it's such a great moment in the story because it's like they're checked into this hotel. John Hamm's going up and down this hallway looking through these 2-way mirrors, kind of like seeing each room and everything like that. And it's like, at that point, we don't know what their secrets are necessarily. So it's like we're feeling what John Hamm is feeling. And it's like, it's this long moment of letting us sit in the tone of the scene, but also in the feeling of the character. And John Hamm does a really good job of kind of selling a what the fuck kind of an energy about him. So he sells it as a character. It's the right place in the story to spend that much time in that location. So I think that that's really sharp. And I agree with you as well that like for the amount of pieces that this movie has going, they're all engaging. Everything works. And there's not a lot or anything that I would cut for time from this, which is also rare when we get in the 2-hour plus films that we cover on this podcast, that like usually for every 10 minutes past 2 hours, there's 1 minute that at least that was cuttable. And that kind of gets exponentially more and more so. But this is one where I'm like, every bit works and there's not a lot of chuff around the edges that we can get rid of here.
No, there's really not. Like, I think maybe there's a bit of drag in the middle and I might cut one song, but
Sure.
not any storylines.
Yeah.
I might try to speed up the pace of what's here just a tiny bit in certain spots, but really it's such minimal changes that I would do. I do think it deserves its runtime.
Yeah, it literally would be micro to make this even any more efficient. It would be micro edits cutting out seconds at a time between scenes. And then maybe one moment, but story wise and structurally, it's not like there's a wasted scene completely.
No, I might be because even scenes that are too long are long on purpose. It's it's drawing tension, it's drawing your intrigue. Is Dakota Johnson going to shoot them through the window or not? That scene's kind of long, but it earns it. It's it's Chris Hemsworth walking up to the building and in the rain and we have a lot of establishing shots, but it's you're building who Chris Hemsworth is now. So
yeah,
there's no wasted scenes. They're all there for a purpose. It's weird to say it's a tight 2 hours and 20.
Yeah.
But it's pretty tight.
Yeah, it's a tight 2 hours 20. And for a big ensemble cast, let's talk about the cast a little bit. Who are the standouts for you?
Who are the standouts for me? I mean, is it weird that I'm like when you say the standouts, all I can think of is like the big name actors who took such small parts in this? I'm like, why was Nick Offerman here? I
don't know if he's a standout.
No, but that's why he stood out to me. I'm like, I'm waiting for Nick Offerman to do more. He had 2 lines and he was wearing a mask for most of them. So I'm like, like, which is cool. It's cool this movie was so good that like big names wanted to take 2-line roles.
Right.
But in terms of like actual performance, probably Jeff Bridges and Chris Hemsworth, I think, actually, maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah, those
okay.
are my biggest.
Okay.
Why? Who's your standout?
I'm gonna agree with you.
I mean, I think everyone's really good though.
I think everyone does do a really good job. I think Bridges is hands down the standout for me, where like he makes some choices with this character that is sincerely like heartbreaking. The way he plays dementia and sadness. And the like, yeah, man, rob a bank. I'm rooting for you. And clearly some things went wrong and you didn't want anyone to get hurt while you were robbing. You're a good thief. Respect, do your thing. So it's like, I'm rooting for this dude. I like him. He's playing dementia with an earnesty and sadness that really hurts your heart as well. It has a very like a very micro Shawshank type of a story about it, which I'm 100% on board for. And just the way he embodies it as well, where there are certain Jeff Bridges isms that he has had throughout his career, the smacking of his lips, which he has had like since Lebowski and the Dude. That's just kind of his vocal pattern, has that like every now and then gotta wet the palate.
Wet the palate, and there's a marble in there.
And there's marble in there, and you gotta wet it. And that's a thing, but he has specifically like chosen this breathing pattern in this movie as well, where it is that it's kind of haunting. Like I don't love saying it, but it's haunting to see and how much he's hit this performance of. It's the feeling of a man who doesn't have a lot of breaths left.
Oh, babe, you can't say that about people, even when they're acting.
But you know that,
no,
like,
I know.
When we've all had like an elderly family member who has that, like, it's like every now and then they've forgotten to breathe a little bit, and just that deep, like. Like, it's just that, like, a bit extra labored and a little bit forgotten and absent-minded as well. So, yeah, it's troubling, and he's really nailed it. But again, without like Oscar bait drawing too much attention to it, to like, it's not like I've dialed it up to award ceremony 12. I'm playing it at a real life 8.
Yeah, which makes it like more impressive. Like, I think that's such a more interesting acting choice. Yeah, because you're right. If he'd cranked it up, it would be like, oh, I'm playing a criminal with dementia who's in a fight for his life and is changing who he is in this moment. And yeah, I'm gonna get that at least Golden Globe, maybe not the Oscar. But
I'll get the Globe. And
this is a comedy category.
Yeah, I'll get the Oscar nom, but I won't win it. I won't win it. Yeah.
He chose to do an 8 though, and he's so wildly good. Yeah, he's got such layers happening here of like, he is trying to con, but he is also like, the moments of sincerity and empathy are just like so wildly open. Like, all of his scenes with Cynthia Erivo, who plays Darlene, are incredible. The scene where he asks if he ever told her his real name, that is and it's so real and it's so scary because his life depends on it and he can't remember his own name. It's such a good combo of writing and acting. Like, everything pays off in this movie.
And she does a phenomenal job as well.
She's incredible.
She sells
really
this character
good.
so much in this relationship, not to mention like a phenomenal singer, but once again, playing the singing at an 8 and not an Oscar bait 12.
Yes, we're not going to get the Oscar nominee for Best Original Song or anything.
Yeah.
We are just doing it for the good of the movie.
Yes.
To tell the story.
Yeah. She's not playing it at like Jennifer Hudson Dreamgirls.
No.
She's playing it as, I am a singer who is good and has had like a bad hand, but is still playing in Reno at 6 p.m.
Yeah,
like it is
it's
just
not even that bad a hand.
Yeah.
You know what? You're still performing, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I believe she's at that level. And yeah, she is that good. But like, her acting is like also just like, yeah, phenomenal. When she hauls back and just like hits him with the bottle, I believe it so hard, and I'm like rooting for her so hard.
Yeah.
Like it's really weird to have a movie like full of, I think everyone except Darlene is like really bad people, and you're just kind of like, yeah, go all of you. I like all of you so much.
100%. Yeah, I think that's well, so you like all of them even though they're bad people? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Like everyone's charming and fun to be on screen.
Yes,
I'm not like Chris Hemsworth deserves to live, but I'm just like,
yes.
No, all of these people are wildly interesting on screen.
Yeah, I am of the opinion that that Doc/father, played by Jeff Bridges, does deserve to live, and I think the two good people do end up happy at the end, and it is a happy ending of like, or as much as you can be after you've lived through the incredible trauma that these people have lived through. But it is a happy ending in the sense that it is the two people I was rooting for, where I'm like, fuck yeah, man, rob that bank, fuck the prison system, get out there and do some shit, have fun.
Absolutely. Actually, since you brought up the end, I do want to talk about the end, and it's not that linear a movie, so I think we can jump ahead. I really love how this movie ends for both these characters, because I think any other movie that's about a man who's not super evil, he just robbed banks, he didn't want to hurt anyone, and has dementia and is probably at the end of his life, would end with a sacrifice play where he saves Darlene's life. I think any other movie would be like, he's going to do a sacrifice play, which he kind of does when he like hits Chris Hemsworth and starts the fight. But I don't think a lot of other movies would have let him live. And I love that he just gets to like keep half of his money and kind of just fade away comfortably with a friend by his side.
Yeah.
That's a really nice ending that not a lot of movies like this would do.
And I think they did do a good job as well of like, I agree with you. They set him up for what would traditionally be the sacrifice play ending. But he already took the hit in the last job. Like he's already someone
he already
who
went to jail.
He already did sacrifice himself for the betterment of the people that he cared about. He has already shown that he is that guy. So the movie doesn't need to show us that again twice, which I think is beautiful. Like that moment of like his brother was supposed to drive that truck away, and he switched out knowing there's no way he was going to get away in this busted truck. That knowing that he was about to take the hit for his brother. You know, not knowing how things would be going.
I was going to say, I
day.
guess that does still make him a good guy. I mean, he gets away the most because his brother dies, but he's not the one who killed him or anything.
Yeah, that's right.
So he made the right choice in living in the end, but he also did make a sacrifice play for his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But yeah, I also like the ending for both of them. Like, I feel like again, most stories wouldn't have her still just playing in Reno at 6:00, but if she's financially set now and she loves singing, that just makes this like a happier ending.
Yeah.
It means you're not like hustling to get singing jobs that you need to survive. It means you actually just get to thrive on stage whenever you can and not need it. And that's such a nice ending. Like, of course she's not going to be opening in grand theaters and just because she has money now.
Yeah.
But the fact that she can just comfortably and nicely perform and be like, yeah, this is great.
Well, and it's also a moment of sincerity as well, where her character earlier in the movie says, like, when he's asked her, like, well, why are you doing it? And she's like, I'm singing for singing's sake. Like, I like to do this.
She loves singing.
And it's nice to see that like these are characters who were sincere throughout the movie, or at least like with one another to a certain degree, as much as anyone can be in this scenario. And then the rest of the cast I think is very good. I think like Dakota Johnson is very good in this role. She has a couple of like really standout lines. She plays this character really well of the like I'm the sister here to save you, and like a few kind of badass lines when talking to the clerk. She delivers that really well.
She does deliver that really well. I did feel weird. She's really high up in the cast list, and I feel like she had the least amount of backstory of any of the mains. And considering we did this movie because it's the Madam Web buildup, I was like, I didn't realize she's just not going to say very much. But I do think she was very good in the things she got to do.
It's a little bit backstory by proxy, where they're like, we gave her sister backstory, and she's the only character that kind of comes as a duo, which clouds it a little bit.
Yeah, you don't get to see how she like got her sister there and shoved her in a trunk and everything. So you kind of are missing parts of her story more so than other people. But yeah, her conversation with Miles, the guy who works there, about like, I don't know what your face looked like before, but it's wildly different now.
Very funny.
She really sells that. Yeah, that whole conversation about whether they're going to kill him or not, that is her shining moment in this movie. It's really, really good.
Yeah. And I think she does a good job too of like the flashback at the cult farm stuff and all of that. Now Hemsworth is the one that you kind of brought up a second ago was like one of your standouts. I'm not sure about Hemsworth in this one. I'm not saying he's bad. I am in earnest. This is not a setup. I am in earnest saying I'm not sure. Like moment to moment, I'm flip-flopping on whether or not I liked Hemsworth in this.
I liked Hemsworth in this. Now, I don't know if I would have liked Hemsworth in this a lot so much if it was like a vacuum, if I had no idea who Chris Hemsworth was. I liked Chris Hemsworth in this as, wow, I don't see a lot of Chris Hemsworth in this. And that's what I think is impressive. It's like he lost like 30 pounds of muscle. I actually think this looks way better than how he looks as Thor. This is like a real kind of muscle that people have. But even just like his voice, his movements, his kind of choices, he kind of feels more like Chris Pine than Chris Hemsworth in this. He's got that more fluidity, that more American, obviously, but like not American in the way that he plays it in other movies, like Ghostbusters or something. Like I really am impressed at like how different he can make this character without again being like, this is my villain turn, like Leto playing the Joker or something. Like I've got to go all in. People need to see me as a villain sometimes. This really did feel like Hemsworth just being like, no, I'm going to be a bad guy. He's going to be like realistically bad. And I'm going to have fun. And it's just this like, it's just kind of this fluidity I've never seen in him. I don't know if I'd be as impressed if I hadn't seen many other Chris Hemsworth performances before.
Sure.
But having seen them, I was like, wow, you really got like lost in this role. I don't see a lot of your previous work here.
I think he is playing. I think he's playing around and having a fun time and kind of finding new areas of himself. And that's fun to see. And I think there's just like a few moments in this role where I'm not sure if it's consciously good or accidentally good. Like there are some moments where it does seem like he is struggling with the American accent. I've seen him do better with an American accent, and maybe that's just something that's kind of come more with time. But there are moments where I'm like, he doesn't quite know where his voice is, where it's just like these moments where it's up a little bit and then it drops down and then comes back up and like he's fighting it. But I'm not sure if he's playing it as, because he's not just doing an American, he's doing it very soft nasal palate where it's like, it's very kind and like up here. And like, but then he drops it down. And I'm not sure if that's meant to like show how kind of warm and charismatic this person is and how scary the thing underneath can be. This like switch in tonality where it's like, it's very friendly and welcoming and then it drops for a second and comes back. And I can't tell if that's him fighting to stay in accent or if that's a decision for him to express this range between charming and threatening. And I can't quite tell if it's a choice, and I'm still not quite sure if it works. Whether it's a choice or not, sometimes things can accidentally work, sometimes things can purposefully work. I don't know if it's chosen or not chosen, and I'm not sure if it works, but it's there. And there's these little things where it's like, I do like the dance and the fluidity, and he does come off as very charming, and I think the writing of it is really good. But it's funny that you bring up Chris Pine, because I was even thinking while watching this, I'm like, I think Pine might have been a better casting.
You were also thinking of Pine?
I was thinking Pine might have been a slightly better casting for this.
I mean, if you're going to do a Chris Pine impression, you might as well hire Chris Pine.
Yeah.
It did feel like he was doing a Pine, even though not sure I've ever seen Pine play a villain. But I could just feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It felt like it had that, like, I feel like Pine could lead a cult.
Oh, yeah.
Hemsworth could lead a gang, but Pine could lead a cult. And so it's like there's a value to both of those, but there's a little bit more threat to someone with the size of Hemsworth. And things like that, so I'm not quite certain about it.
No.
I didn't hate it.
I know you didn't hate it. What if what I'm saying though about like Hemsworth in a vacuum, like you don't know he's Australian, you don't know his previous work. Can you look at it like without those eyes, or is it impossible?
I think it's still just like physically, I think he's just kind of too large and imposing. Like it doesn't play that like I'm welcoming you type. Like clearly this is meant to be like a Charles Manson or Marilyn allegory.
Not Marilyn Manson.
Not Marilyn
Manson. You're right.
No,
you're right.
Manson.
No, you're right.
Thank you.
Thank right. You. Apologies to Marilyn. Didn't kill people.
But he's meant to be Charles Manson, which is that kind of like gaunt heroin California burnout, and like this still looks like a dude who does like 200 pull-ups a day, even though he's not as big as Thor. So there's just something about the physicality that isn't quite as loose, and it doesn't feel like a cult leader. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I mean, yeah, I don't know if he's like, yeah, I was surprised when he ended up being a cult leader, because having not seen this before, I did just think they were kind of like who are two serial killers, and like a serial killer couple, not a cult leader couple.
Gotcha.
Which I think made more sense. Like their relationship is so into each other and so like one-to-one that I was like, when would Chris Hemsworth have time for any of the rest of these people in this cult? He's just left work to pick up this girl who is her sister kidnapped. So yeah, I really got I was very surprised when it showed like how big a cult he had, because I did think this was like a serial killer duo.
Yeah. He plays the side that is strong enough to maintain a cult, but not soft enough to prey on the vulnerability and create the cult. So it's there's a
he came into a pre-made cult.
Yeah,
maybe?
If he killed the previous leader and was now like running it, I buy that. There's a side of him here, and again, this goes into the like, it works, it doesn't work, where I'm like, there's aspects of him in this casting, and then there's aspects that doesn't. I'm just kind of flip-flopping on him.
Well, I'm happy he seemed to have a really good time, though. So I think I had a fun time watching him, and I think he was quite good, and I really liked it. How did you feel about Jon Hamm?
I think Jon Hamm is absolutely terrific, as he always is. He's a dude with just a ton of range. He knows
Range is how you describe Jon Hamm?
Well, he knows how to play drama and comedy, like in terms of like the genre of the piece. Like, I'm not range in the sense of, sometimes when I say range, it means like an actor who can disappear into multiple roles. I'm not saying I'm like, who is this guy? Oh my God, that's Jon Hamm.
That's what
I know
I'm
it's
saying.
Jon
Okay.
Hamm. But Jon Hamm's ability to be like, I have a hook for a hand on 30 Rock. Also, I just, while simultaneously winning an Emmy for Mad Men. That's range as well.
Okay.
A guy who makes mac and cheese with Gatorade while having a hook for a hand on 30 Rock, while also winning an Emmy for Mad Men.
Okay.
A guy who is...
That is, you know what? You've got me there on range. And I feel bad that I laughed a moment ago.
A J. Edgar Hoover FBI agent in this, and also the reboot of Fletch. Like, so he is a dude who can play range in terms of genre pieces as well. Yeah.
Yes, okay,
An
that's
idiotic
fair.
angel as well, as
On
much as
Good
a
Omens.
competent FBI agent.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I guess. You're not wrong. It's just like every time, I like Jon Hamm a lot. I think he's very entertaining. I think he's a very good actor. He is just like probably one of the men who I least think of as disappears into a role. I think whenever I see Jon Hamm act, I'm like, Jon Hamm learned some new lines and it's still Jon Hamm. I've never been like, I don't even know his character's name on Mad Men, whoever that guy was.
Yeah.
I think it was
Don Draper.
Don Draper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty famously
Yeah,
named.
famously named.
I watched a little bit of Mad Men.
That's
but
fine.
Despite these criticisms of him, I actually think he's very fun in this. I think he's like charming, even just alone in a hotel room looking for bugs. He's making it work. I think the most interesting thing about him, though, is like what the plot does with him, which is very like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which is he's set up as kind of the main character. You spend the most time with him in Act 1, and then he's killed very abruptly.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that. I didn't like it in the moment because I was like, no, Jon Hamm. I like Jon Hamm. But like it really gives like, it really makes the audience unsettled. We don't know who the main character is now. We don't know what's going to happen. No one feels safe. But it's not like a slasher movie or anything. It's not like, oh, someone's out to kill everyone. You are just like, who's going to take out who now? What are we even going for?
Yeah.
But not in a like unfocused way, in a way of like, everyone clearly has goals. I don't know whose goals are going to win.
Well, what I think is really smart about his death in that moment, and why I think this works so much as kind of like a meta event, and how it kind of brings us as an audience into this very specific feeling of like thriller horror afterwards, is that yes, he's the character that we spend the most time with off the top, and and he's charming and he's fun and there's a lot going on, but he is also the only expository character. Like, he is the one who gets on the phone with the government and is like, here is what we're doing in this movie film. He is the one who delivers exposition in a way that we are inherently familiar with as an audience. He's like, here's what we're doing in the movie. I am collecting bugs, but also they have their own setup. I'm going to look into that. And there's been a kidnapping. He's like, I'm telling you the plot to this movie, and surely you'll get more phone calls like this that help us comfortably lay out where this movie is going and summarize what is happening. And by killing him, it's almost like we're killing exposition.
The narrator was shot halfway through the film.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. The narrator, we went from an omnipotent narrator to no fucking narrator at all. And that is such a cool genre piece. It's like a book switching from like first to third person midway. Like, it's just this level of like,
oh, what the fuck?
What the fuck just happened? And I think that is really clever, to kill the expository character as we get entered into this chaotic series of events.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I think his death is like one of the cooler like writing structure deaths of anything, because he's also the only character that exists like completely in the present, despite how much screen time he gets. As you said, he's finding tunnels, he's making phone calls, he's looking for bugs. Whereas everyone else, when we go into their rooms, we get backstory. And he didn't get any backstory. We, like, as much as he's talking to his kid on the phone, we don't go to the kid. We don't go to how he became an FBI agent or how he got to this building. We don't even see him arrive. He's just already there. So, like, he's the only one who, like, does exist in the present and is supposed to be the one who takes us on this journey through the El Royale. And, like, he's the reason they're all stuck there. He pulled all the cords out of their cars. And then he just, like, dies halfway through. And you're like, whoa, he had, like, a whole plan, though. He pulled the cords out of the cars and he called backup. And it's just, like, you just don't know what to do now.
I am just now realizing what this device is, and that Drew Goddard has done it twice now. Is that like this is the like Chris Hemsworth dying in Cabin at the Woods. Like is the pullback moment of like there's something more going on here. It feels like that.
Than you think
this is bigger than you think it is.
It's not just a dude who's like looking for camera or whatever.
This isn't the genre piece you think it is. Now it's chaos.
Yeah.
Welcome to chaos.
Yeah, you thought you knew what this was.
And also even just like the false opening of Cabin in the Woods of just being an office comedy with the two people before we even get to the teens. Like it feels very similar to that, to be like, we've set up a genre that this isn't. Now welcome to chaos.
Yeah. You think this is going to be a movie where everyone finds the bag of money and they kill each other for it and it changes hands 8 times. And you're never quite sure which bag has the money in it.
Are you ready for Reservoir Dogs at a hotel? It's not that.
It's not that.
It's not that.
It's kind of that.
It's kind of that, but it is not
in
that.
The way you think it is. Yeah. It's like 8 different. Usually I would be like, this movie has 8 different genres, and that doesn't work. But this movie has like 8 different genres.
And it all
absolutely works.
It all kind of works. Yeah. I love how sincerely spooked you got when Dakota Johnson's character shoots John Hamm as well. Like,
it was, I mean, I will say every gunshot in this movie hits like a train. There's like, it has very few gunshots in it, and every one that happens is like, it decimates. And I think that's really cool. So he really does get shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very much like, whoa, this isn't the turn. Like, no discussion, no like, who are you? What's your backstory? Why'd you break into my room? Like, she just took that fucker out.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to figure out why, because I even found it shocking. And what's wild is that we see her shoot John Hamm's character, and then we see it from another perspective again later. And it's still, even though you know the moment's about to happen, it still makes you jump.
Yeah.
This single gunshot that you know is about to happen. I'm like, why is that? What is the trick that they're doing here? And I'm not 100%, but I do think that they are using a different sound effect for the gunshot than every other movie ever uses, because it's not bassy. It doesn't have that low rumble build. It is not the same like sound library that I think every major studio uses for, it'll be like, you type in the name of the gun, here's the sound effect of that real gun firing. But it doesn't have that like boom, like a typical gunshot in most movies. It just goes, ah! it hits way too fast and it already starts at a high frequency and it ends really abruptly. It's like it's sped up and shorter, or like they
Maybe.
chopped the beginning and end off. There's something specifically designed about it to be startling. Outside of the writing and the moment itself, there's something about the audio cue of it. It's not boom, it's bah! And it just happens so fast that it hurts. It hits you weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you for sure. My only thought is because I don't know, maybe it is actually what this gun sounds like, because it's a shotgun of buckshot. So it's kind of like 200 bullets.
Right.
Like when they hit. So I don't know if that like makes a way different sound, but I also don't know anything about guns.
Yeah.
Not my forte. But like just from a writing perspective, I think it's also so shocking because they make a point of showing that like we already know as an audience that Dakota Johnson's not a bad guy here. She's trying to save her sister from like a cult. And I thought she was on drugs, actually. I thought she was trying to de-drug her. So I'm like, oh no, she's a good guy. She can be trusted. So then for her to, with no remorse, just shoot a man who had only like who was like standing with his hands up and was not threatening her.
Yeah.
Like the movie really does shock you in that way. You've been led to believe this is a trustworthy character who will only kill in self-defense probably. And then she just fucking murders John Hamm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then John Hamm, who has gone rogue to try to save a person as well.
Yeah, it's kind of just too sad to believe it's happened.
Yeah, a man who is an FBI agent who is doing what he's told and then doesn't do what he's told, like, is someone who's meant to seem untrustworthy, is like collecting listening devices and then also like pulling out people's car parts, but then also doing the right thing in a weird way. There's a lot of conflict there.
There's a lot of conflict. There's just such a sad tragedy of like, if they had talked for even a second, they would have just helped each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Dakota Johnson was just like, it's my sister and she's in a cult, he'd be like, oh, that's fine probably. Okay, just have a good night. He
Just
probably
get
would
outta
have
here.
just left. She doesn't know that, so she had to shoot him.
Yeah.
But of course, so that's that. Oh, and then we get to like my favorite moment in this movie.
Lay it on me.
Later, it's when Miles, what is he? He's not a cashier. Clerk.
The clerk.
The clerk.
Yeah.
Miles, the clerk. When he like takes a turn and becomes a sniper badass. That was kind of the same shock, but in like a way different way. This was awesome.
That was a wild turn.
That moment, and it was like, but it's like you've had enough clues that you're like, oh, he did keep saying he had bigger things to confess to, and like there's definitely something happening with this guy.
And like clearly like the whole movie being kind of set in a post-Vietnam era as well. Yeah.
He seemed kind of young to have like gone and come back from Vietnam already.
Yeah.
But then I guess if he's like, if he's been really good at his job, the government would be like, all right, we're going to trust you to work at this hotel and get us secrets. Like you've been government entrenched at least.
Yes. Yeah. Or shady people who he was with in the war are now running some kind of a weird operation back home, a weird kind of like bribery operation or something like that. Yeah.
Louis Pullman is playing Miles in this. So yeah, that
does a
turn,
terrific job as well.
Oh, so terrific. The whole time when he wants forgiveness and he's just like in the chair shaking, and like when he's like, I can't kill more people, and you're just like, more? You're just kind of sitting there in your chair.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean more?
Yeah, because I think the implication would be, and they do a really good job of implied storytelling of the era in this movie of like, he's addicted to heroin as well, this clerk, the receptionist of the hotel. And he was in Vietnam, and it's like a lot of drug was trafficked through American soldiers. A lot of heroin specifically was trafficked through American soldiers back to America. So it's like he's clearly gotten wrapped up in some ex-military people who are bringing heroin back and also are now involved in bribing people. And like these stories, the weird wolf thing.
Oh boy.
These fun little character moments. And that's one nice thing too about this movie is that like every character gets what I would call like an audition piece. Like one scene where it's like, it feels like a play in that regard where it's just like, it's an ensemble cast, but everyone gets a moment where they get to be upstage, where they get to be in the spotlight and have a character defining piece, and that's his.
That's a really good point out. Yeah, every character in this movie has a scene you could take into an audition room and be like, I get to do a full character study right now.
And I think that's also why with a lot of the times with movies similar to this, you can get such a star-studded cast, is that you aren't getting a cast of people where it's like, okay, and then here are the A-list parts for A-list actors, the B-list parts for B-list actors, and the C-list parts for C-list actors. This is a movie where it's like every character has a moment where an actor is going to read for any role in this, and you're gonna go, oh shit, I want to do this scene. I get this character. This is awesome, and I want to be part of this. By giving each character those moments, you open yourself up to getting very talented actors who are willing to have a moment where they get to really be a character and show a character, even if it's not the most screen time.
Yeah. That goes back to like what I said about like why is Nick Offerman here for sure. Like Shea Wiggum just as like the prison doctor. I'm like, Shea Wiggum, you're awesome. You're in everything, and you're always ruling. This is really fun.
He elevates stuff, yeah.
He elevates stuff. But yeah, that's a great point about all the actors. One other thing about this movie, I think I touched on it so briefly earlier. I love the state border in the middle of the hotel. I want to stay here. So it's like it's not overly used. It doesn't outstay its welcome. Mm-hmm. It is just a fun like metaphor for like if you're good or bad, if you walk the line, if you cross the line. There's like so much happening in that regard. But also it's just very fun to be like, you can only drink over there and you can only gamble over there. And I'm like, I love this idea. I am so smitten with this.
It is so cute. It would be so frustrating to be like, you need to finish your drink before you can go gamble. And I'd be like, this sucks now that I think about it. But there is a kitschy, and also they said that they don't have their gambling license anymore, so you can't gamble.
So you can just go to the other side and drink.
But it is gorgeous. It is one of those things, like I mentioned earlier, nostalgic for a time and a place where I wasn't there, where I'm like, I want to be here. I want to be here. I want to stay here. And it's like, it's past its prime, or it's implied that it's past its prime.
Yeah, you can feel it. Yeah.
And you can feel it, but it's not run down yet.
No, it still looks nice. It's just empty.
It's not hip and happening, but it's still in style. And I'm like, that's actually kind of the exact moment when I want to be at a thing.
Yeah, it's
It's like
I want to be
off-season.
just on the off season, just on the outs, affordable now. Because they even say that. They're like, well, it's affordable now. You couldn't stay here before. Like, I totally believe John Hamm's character when he's like, I couldn't afford the honeymoon suite 5 years ago, but I can afford it now because this place lost its gambling license.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like that. It looks impeccable. It's such a cool place. It's a place where I want to stay. I would like to spend a night there, please.
I would have really liked to have spent a night there if it hadn't burnt down and had all the murders.
Yeah, if it weren't for the murders and the burning down.
The murders and the burning down.
Yeah.
There's just one moment I have to talk about as a goof, and this is more about me than the film, or maybe me just not reading a situation properly. It's Miles's death, which is actually beautiful, with Jeff Bridges giving him absolution, helping him like let go of all the things he's done. It's really, really lovely. He like dies right on the line of good and evil in the state border. It's really like gorgeously filmed and thought through and acted. But I started laughing because I misread the situation entirely. Because Miles gets stabbed in the stomach and he's laying there, and Darlene looks at Jeff Bridges and she's like, help him. And he's like, there's nothing we can do. And he's like, no, help him. And in my head I went, yes, mercy kill him with the gun. And Jeff Bridges knelt down and gave him last rites and gave him absolution. And I'm like, oh, is that what she meant?
I also thought she meant mercy kill.
Oh, you also thought mercy kill?
I also thought mercy kill.
That makes me feel really better about it.
It's framed like a mercy kill.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. It made me feel like a bad person because Darlene would have looked upon me poorly if I had mercy killed him in that moment, apparently. Darlene would have been like, it's not what I meant.
No. And be like, well, this is over now. We got to get out of here.
Now it's done. Do you want the money or not, girl?
Now it's weird.
I thought this is what you wanted. I got dementia. I'd say to her.
Do any of these cars work? Oh, well, the Cult came in cars. There would be a fresh car there.
The Cult came in cars. I mean, she did get all the cords out of
she did get all the
John
cords.
Hamm's coat. I think she must have just put the cord in wrong. I mean, she didn't know which one was her car. It was raining. She saw murder.
And you're not a fucking mechanic. Like,
She's
what
not.
do you? Yeah, if someone gave me 8 cords and was like, put the right one back in, I'd be like, fuck you. This is gonna take me. I got a 1 in 8 chance of getting this right. Maybe, I don't know.
New Cult car.
Yeah.
Although you don't want to leave your car at the murder hotel.
Ooh, strong point.
You do want to drive that car out of there.
Also a strong point.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think we're fixing the car.
Yeah, you want to fix the car. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm landing on fix the car.
Fix the car, drive out of there. I'm definitely down with that. How do you feel about the tape?
I don't think this movie needs the tape, but I don't mind it. Like it just feels like once John Hamm dies, the tape just should die with it. Like I don't really ever believe that Jeff Bridges really wants it all that bad or would know what to do with it. Like he's got a year to live and he's got a ton of money under those floorboards. He doesn't need the tape. I would only be interested in the tape if it was a politician I hated and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna ruin your life.
Yeah.
Like that would fill me with so much joy.
Yep.
That would be such a get.
I'm kind of with you there, where it's just like it sets some things into motion, mainly with John Hamm's character, but it isn't super relevant as things move on. And I think that they're going for this kind of MacGuffin piece. It's this Pulp Fiction briefcase that glows from the inside type of thing, where it's like we're never going to tell you what it is. You can all kind of guess what it is, but we're never going to tell you what it is. And it has that energy, but it's the only moment in this where like there are flavors of Tarantino throughout this, but that's the only thing where I'm like, this just kind of feels derivatively Tarantino.
Yeah, it
does.
And a little like J.J. Abrams mystery box.
Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't quite vibing it for that.
I wasn't quite vibing it either because I also didn't feel like Chris Hemsworth's character would care about it. Like he runs a cult in the woods.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit. He's not one of those like I hate the government cults. He's like I like having ladies in my cult, it seems.
Yeah.
So I didn't think he'd care. It really was just like it's just about the bag of money at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just about the bag of money. Just about the bag of money and a terrible series of events that lead to a very bad time.
To a bad day. At the El Royale.
A very bad day. That's what it should be called. Just a bad day.
It is bad times.
It's bad times.
I thought it was bad.
You thought it was called bad day? Just a bad day at the El Royale.
Hey, I think that's even what Dakota Johnson says. You caught me on a bad day.
I think she does say that.
So I'm, and this is the Dakota Johnson lead-in to Madam Web.
Of course.
So I'm all in.
I actually would not be mad at the title. I would not be mad at the title "Bad Day at the El Royale."
No, it would work just as well.
Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change. So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us move up the charts. It helps us find new listeners. It's a free way to support the show, and we love you for doing it.
God, Andrew just gave you all some great reasons to leave a 5-star rating and review of our podcast wherever you are currently listening to it. It would help us in the charts and in our hearts, and you would like that.
There we go.
I know you would. You're a good person. You'd be on the Nevada side of the El Royale.
I forget which one was good and bad. I feel like they all checked out of Nevada, but either way. What state would you stay in if you were at the El Royale? California or Nevada?
Tell us in a review.
Tell us in a review.
We gots to know.
We gots to know. Part of me would like the California side. I'll have an extra $1 a night. I don't mind spending it.
It was a lot more back then.
That is, I mean, they said that it was the cheap place, but still. So there is that. Please leave a review. And as well, if you want to support the show monetarily, you can do so over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service where you can subscribe at whatever level is in your budget, and you get cool bonuses depending on what level you subscribe at. For example, at the $3 a month level, you will get these episodes early and ad-free. So you could be listening to any of these episodes early and without ads. It's self-explanatory.
Guys, you could hear Madam Web early.
Oh,
You're
shit.
going to want to know, as soon as we see Madam Web, what it's like. And if you're a $3 patron, you're going to get that episode as soon as we get back from the theater and see it.
Yeah. And if you are
ad-free.
And ad-free. And also, if you become a $10 patron, you will get all the previous bonuses. So you'll also get the $3 bonus of early and ad-free.
Early Madam Web.
At Early Madam Web. But at the $10 level, you also get a bonus episode of this podcast every single month, and you get access to the full back catalog. Last month, we did another movie where things went wrong in California. We did Escape from LA for last month's Patreon bonus. And then for this month, we are building up to to Dune 2. Dune 2. So we're talking about some Denis Villeneuve films. So we're going to be talking about Sicario over on the Patreon exclusive this month. So at the $10 level, you'll get Sicario this month. You get access to the full back catalog. And as well, if your finances change, you can change your subscription level or cancel on any given month. So check out the options over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
Not a lot of changes. We already discussed that this is a pretty dang good film. I think I would speed up the middle section a bit. It does drag just a little. I think there's maybe like 5 minutes too long with Jeff Bridges and Darlene. Maybe like one of her songs could be like half the length it is. She's a wonderful singer and they like help tell the story, but I think we could lose like 5 minutes. And I think my only other change is I think Dakota Johnson, actually, and this is my genuine change, not just my it's Madam Web month change. I do wish her character kind of got more singular backstory because it made it pretty obvious she was going to die. Most characters, I wasn't sure where we were going with this. When John Hamm died, I was like, anyone's up for grabs, but if you don't get a lot of backstory, it's probably not you. So I kind of like, I didn't think she was going to make it, but I liked her and I thought she was like good and fun. So I would say I think her backstory should have been a bit more her, because like even her backstory, it says like Billy Elliot or whatever the fuck Chris Hemsworth's character's name was. Probably not Billy Elliot.
I think Billy Lee.
Billy
Lee.
He was not the ballet dancer?
No.
Okay. So Billy Lee, but she like that was where she got most of her backstory. So it didn't quite work, because even when it cut to like room 5 where she was, and then it cut to her sister on the beach with Chris Hemsworth. Yeah. So she really didn't get a backstory. So I would give her one to, at least as an audience member, make me be like, she might live. Could be. Just a little bit extra of like everyone is equally livable.
I get that.
So that's really my only change for this movie. I had a great time. I think it's very, very, very good. Andrew, what would you change?
You and your very good times at the El Royale.
Me and my very, very, very good times at the El Royale.
I can get behind that. Yeah, I think if we kind of switched out, was it Daisy or
Darlene.
Boots? Darlene.
The singer or the sister?
The sister.
Oh, the sister was Rosie.
Sorry. I agree. If we switched out Rosie for her sister and like kind of traded off who actually got the backstory there, I do think that kind of works, because we double down with like the household stuff, but I don't know if that was necessary. But I agree with you. Like, give Dakota Johnson's character a little bit more backstory. I agree with that. I think my big change is doing something to. I want to this end of the second act into the third, kind of around when Hemsworth shows up at the hotel. It switches to the tone of the movie switches to being sincerely severe, whereas I feel like most of the movie was kind of rated R dark comedy, if not comedy, like obviously not laugh out loud comedy, but dark farce.
No, I agree.
Where it's like, here's a series of farcical events. It's a farce, but with guns. Yes, there is violence, but it's like, it's Jeff Bridges' character is like robbed a car. It's like, oh, we buried some money. Oops, and now there's someone watching a thing, and a naked man laid with a wolf, and it wasn't sexual, but it wasn't not. That's kind of a bit much. And then we kind of get into 20 minutes on sincere and depressing abuse and violence in this, like, and it the tone isn't right. I'm not saying that you can't tell that, but at that point it completely shifts the gear of the story of like, I'm a priest with bad memories who has a moment of drama and humanity, but for the most part, I'm trying to collect some money that my brother tucked away. And it's like, I'm a singer. I'm a Vietnam vet who's addicted to heroin, which I know sounds dark, but has some playfulness to it. Like, how do I look? Did I get hit with buckshot? And it's just so severe with the Hemsworth stuff. I think that we don't need 2 different trauma abuse backstory flashbacks for the same character.
Oh, that's true. Yes. Yep.
We don't need to be like, hey, here is the abusive father. Here is when you are picked up by your future abuser. And then to remind the audience that they abuse, here's you in a violent fist fight for sex to show your new abuser. I'm like, I get it. She's suffering abuse. By the third one, I'm like, okay, now we're actually getting into into sincere like violence porn bum out territory where it doesn't match the tone and flow of it.
Yeah, especially by the last one when Dakota Johnson's dying and it just shows the dad like picking Rosie up in the flashback. I was like, oh, come on. I already know she's super messed up.
You snuck in a fourth final abuse flashback?
Yeah. Like I already wasn't on Rosie's side, but I was at the same time. You know, she's a complicated character.
So that's my big thing is that like just cut those down. We maybe only need one cohesive flashback and you've got to find a way to have it tonally match the rest of the stories. And I don't exactly know how to do that. I'm not like, here's where you put the joke for it to lightly match the other people, but fewer flashbacks and finding some way to get that storyline to tonally match what's going on with the other people.
I can agree with that. And I even kind of have like a suggestion for your change because I can agree that like it is too severe and the flashbacks aren't helping. What I think the problem is once Chris Hemsworth shows up is Chris Hemsworth brings all these extra people and everyone we know gets tied up and put in a chair. And until that point, everyone had been like zigzagging through secret passageways, the parking lot, or in their rooms, and like they're kind of like crossing through their lives, and that's what's interesting about who's where and who saw what and how do you hide. And the second you tie every single character to a chair and just sit there for 30 minutes, the fun's gone.
There's no movement.
There's no movement.
Kinetically, story-wise.
There's no like who saw what and who did what. I think you need at least one character not tied up who's sneaking around and maybe trying to untie everyone.
I'd love that. Would re-add the farce element of it.
Yeah, you know, someone you thought was shot. Like maybe you think Miles is dead because he got shot in the face, but he comes out of the tunnels. He's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yes,
something like that.
Yeah. That's a really great point. One of them shouldn't be tied up. Thank you. That helps me.
You're totally right. It's too severe and something changes. And the change, I think, is that, like, people aren't moving anymore.
I knew what the problem was, but I didn't know how to fix it. So thank you for helping me fix it. Until they all get tied to a chair, this movie is a farce. It's Frasier with a gun.
The reboot's weird.
The reboot's weird.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But it's like, I'm doing a thing in the kitchen. Like, Roz, can you help me out? And then they're dancing around and juggling set pieces.
It's Dakota Johnson shoots John Hamm, not knowing it's a two-way mirror, and she just shot Miles as well. It's like,
and that's violent and dark, and it's
farcical.
Not. It's farcical. It's dark comedy. It's not like a ha 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 joke, but it's like this is a joke of poetry.
It's more like, I think the joke is when the audience goes, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's kind of the joke. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, he stood there. He was watching. Yeah, great. We
Love
did
it. I think we've done it.
We've done it.
So that's Bad Times at the El Royale. That's going to do it for us for this week. Next week on the podcast, we are going to be back talking about, we've mentioned it, you know it, you love it. It's your new favorite thing to hear us talk about, we hope. Next week, we'll be back talking about Madam Web.
First, we should go to the Amazon and study some spiders.
We've got to go study some spiders.
So
if you want to hear about our spider research, in the meantime, you can find me online. I'm on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me on Instagram and Threads as Pics of Diana, on Tumblr at Words of Diana.
And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes, and you can find everything that we create and put out into this world at FromSuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to you all next week.
Bye. See you at Madam Web.